Hello, Rob here from the Flanagan Homestead. I'm just about to head into Remnant Farms, the old farm supply store here in town. I enjoy shopping here in places like this instead of big box stores where they're all nice, new and fancy. I enjoy going into the old barns, the creaking barn wood and whatnot, and just feel the atmosphere is right. But I'm gonna buy my chicks for this year. It's the January 31st. This is late for me. I know everybody tends to get chicks in the spring, but I encourage you, I'd like to get my chicks between Thanksgiving and Christmas. You're going to have a grow lamp on them anyway, or a heat lamp on them anyway, and so they get growing up, and when they're everybody else is buying chicks, mine are about ready to lay eggs, but I'm a little bit late this year. But anyway, I'm probably going to go in and special order some because they probably don't have them out. They gave me a good deal in the past. Hardly turned a profit on me because they just want me to buy chicks so that they can sell me feed later on. But anyway, I'm going to get more chicks than I actually need, and then I'll sell some off when they get to point of production when everybody else is buying chicks. Okay, there's Remnant Farms. I just picked up the chicks that I ordered. They had them special ordered for me. They came in this box, all 25 of them. And if you look at this, I live in Woodland, Washington, and they came from somewhere in New Mexico. And they were mailed, and I picked them up. They were here at 10:30 this morning. They set them out under a heat lamp and food, and then they just put them back in the box for me, and I'm taking them home. So in this box I have 25 birds, I believe 8 Welsummers, which are a really dark brown egg. I have 10 barred rock, which are my favorite birds. They're big enough to eat, but they're great egg layers, and they're really calm and passive and good to have around the farm. And then I have 7 Ameraucanas, which are a bluish egg. And like I mentioned before, I like to have birds that lay different colored eggs because the people that I give them to, sell them to, seem to just really enjoy the different colored eggs. My current stance on watering is I'm not going to have chickens without, or at least chickens that have to stay in the coop without this watering system. I've always been frustrated with the ones that are the pan, and sometimes it runs out, and the chickens naturally scratch and they throw water up into the pan, and it's just a mess. But this, with the watering nipples, this is a 7-gallon bucket. You can put it in any size bucket, but I like the bigger one because I could fill this up, and with this size chicks, I could just not worry about water for weeks. But anyway, the water nipples, you put this in, it's full of water. I already got a few gallons in here. You push the buttons, and water will drip out and have a little bit on these pans, and then the chicks will find that, and they will come in and hit these buttons, and water will drip out. And I found within the first day, they know how to find the water. Nothing gets full of crud. The water stays clean. You have water for forever. So you have to have these watering nipples. Now, when they get old enough and they free range out in the pasture, I take them out, and I have right here, I have a low watering trough, and then the chickens and the goats drink out of that one, and I just make sure there's fresh water in there each day. So because the chicks came earlier than expected, I just put a board underneath this shelf here where I normally leave a bale of hay, and then I put a heat lamp down at this end. I like to put the heat lamp fairly low and towards one end, almost lower than it should be. But then they can get plenty of heat, but they can move further away if they want it. If it's really cold, they can move in there even closer. I'm going to go ahead and release these chicks here. They'll just start working their way out. The space for my adult hens, which I had 30 of them, is right behind me here. There's the wall that they climb, and there's a couple reasons there. I didn't have a chance to clean that out really well yet. And the other reason is sometimes the year-old or the day-old chicks with the older hens don't go well right away. I'm going to have these in here exclusively here, and then for a while I'm going to have a gate where the chicks can run out into the space where the older hens are, but the older hens can't come back in here. So if they need to escape, they can come back in here, and there won't be a problem. They will eventually get all incorporated together, but not until these birds get more size. And last but not least, feed. You want, instead of a layer, you want a grower mix, and you want some mash or crumble, not big old pellets. It needs to be smaller stuff that the chicks can handle. I don't actually have my feeder down here right now for them, but that's okay. I'm just going to put this on the floor for tonight. I got a hot date with my wife I got to get to, but I can leave this on the floor. They'll just peck it off the floor and eat it, and tomorrow I'll get a regular feeder in here. I normally like to get my chicks earlier than this. I know most garden and farm centers get the chicks out more in the spring, but it takes about 6 months for the chicks to get to a point of production. And so if you get your chicks in the spring, it's fall time before they start laying. I normally like to get my chicks late November or December. I'm going to have them under a heat lamp anyway, and so they're growing, and so when everybody else is starting to buy their chicks, I have chicks that are starting to lay, and I usually sell off a few for $20 a piece. When everybody's, instead of buying chicks, they get young chickens that are ready to lay eggs. I just brought a simple shallow pan that I'm going to use for their feeding tray for right now. There you go. First day, press the nipples to get moisture on the platforms the chicks can find. I moved the water bucket a little bit closer, and the first chicks are now coming out. A little bit thirsty. Figuring out how to drink out of it. This is not unusual to get a favorite nipple, and then one of them hits the nipple and gets water out, so they all pile in instead of just triggering their own nipple. I prefer the barn safe heat lamps from Premier One. I did have a heat lamp in here before, not in here because it was a different barn, and the goats knocked it down. Granted, the barn safe ones are better for larger animals, but the goats knocked the heat lamp down and burnt the barn down to the point that I had, well, basically, I have a couple boards like this that are left from the entire barn. It happened Christmas morning years ago, so I used Premier One heat lamp. One of the negative things, so this is the Premier One barn safe. One of the negative things, I just noticed this, about having a cooler heat lamp that wasn't super hot and I put it close. I've had chicks climb up in here before and then they climb out. These chicks climbed up trying to get close to the bulbs and then they couldn't figure out how to get out. That's the first time I've had chicks not be able to get out, and so obviously they ended up cooking themselves, which is another reason I want to put a warmer bulb in and have the lamp higher so the chicks aren't going to be able to climb up towards it. Thanks for joining me as I quickly set up for 25 new chicks and seeing the slight adjustments I made in the first couple days. I will have updated videos on how the chicks are doing, and thanks for joining me on the Flanagan Homestead, where Christmas trees are my business, teaching and cleaning horticulture is my job, and outdoor projects like raising chicks and goats are my passion. Be blessed, everyone.